You know, I hear a lot of motorcyclists out there ask why the Can Am Ryker even exists or how it came into be. Well, when a mommy motorcycle and a daddy Miata love each other very much, if you're being honest with yourself, you've seen one of these things go down the street and pull the Homer Simpson. I certainly know I have, and to be honest, after riding this thing around, I kind of regret it a little bit. Now, in an effort to broaden my horizons and get rid of some of my stereotypes and prejudices, I went on to RiderShare and I rented this thing here for the day because they have a whole bunch of motorcycles available for rent. Click that link down in the description below. Check out what's in your area, or if you're traveling, you can rent a bike while you're on the road. Clicking that link will get you $25 off of your first rental, or if you want to become a renter, you can actually make money on your motorcycles down there. But that's enough jabbering here on the side of the road. Let's get this thing out in the twisties and see how it feels.
Now, how's about we start this segment with a very spicy comment that I'm sure is not going to aggravate anybody in the comments section down below. I believe down Lime Creek, I am faster on this vehicle than I am on a motorcycle. Now, let me caveat that by saying that I don't think this is faster than a motorcycle. I'm just saying that on this vehicle, I am faster. So that should be sacrilegious, right? You know, a motorcycle should be able to just rip through these twisty roads like nobody's business. Well, honestly, the amount of traction I have and the amount of traction that I feel is staggering. There is so much tire to work with everywhere. And there's a really interesting phenomenon that happens with this thing where when you're actually getting into a corner, basically what happens is you end up loading that outside tire. There's a moment where you feel the weight shift. Once you load that outer tire, it's game time, baby. You can just accelerate. It's actually really cool because it's very tactile. It's like there's that moment where once you feel it, you're like, all right, let's go. And right here, this is a construction zone, and this area is often covered with like gravel and sand and stuff. I don't care. I really don't care because I have 3 contact patches. Sure, maybe the tires will start to slip a little bit, but it's not like on a bike where when you lose 1 contact patch, game over. You're down. Load it, load it, load it. Go, go, go. Oh, that is really, really fun. It's so much fun to ride like that. It's such a unique riding experience. The best way I can describe it is if you've ever been on a snowmobile. I'll say that one of my favorite vehicular experiences on land, other than riding a motorcycle, is being on a snowmobile. Snowmobiles are actually really cool. And this brings a lot of that snowmobile vibe to the streets. And in fact, you literally turn it the exact same way. You have to press into the outside bar, and once you're there, you have to hold it, right? Because if you let go, the weight of the tires just want to straighten back up. You don't want to just let go all at once, because then the wheels will snap straight and you'll get thrown to the outside. And if you're not ready for it, you might buck yourself off. And this thing, it actually does change direction surprisingly quickly. Once you weight that outside tire, it's go time, baby. Now, I have said a lot of good stuff about this. The real downside, and you're gonna hear me mention this a couple of times, is how wide this vehicle is. You really have to be mindful of where your outside and inside tires are. If your outside tire catches the outside of this curb right here, that's not gonna be good because it's gonna be hard to get it back onto the road. And if you're not careful with your outside tire, you're gonna eat that double yellow line. And surprisingly enough, a three-wheeler really does need its third wheel for it to work. So, you know, if you clip a car, you're just going to lose that wheel. And then, you know, you're going to have a bad time. It's also exhausting. It's exhausting to ride this thing in a sporty way because there's so much body motion and there's so much pressure that's going into these handlebars, and there's so much weight that you're moving around and that you're holding in awkward positions. So if you're a motorcyclist and you're coming from a bike, it's gonna feel exhausting. But I've been up and down Lime Creek, and the inside of my elbows is hurting for some reason. I think that means I'm probably pulling too hard on the bars and not pressing enough on the outside, would be my guess. You really have to, you know, you really got to press right to go left, and you got to press left to go right. You can't pull. But let's get back to the positives. The brakes. Holy shit, does this thing stop on a dime. If you accidentally overcook it into a corner, you just tap those brakes and you slow right down. Like, here we go. Let's get on the other side of this corner. It's gonna straighten out. There's nobody behind me. We're going 45-ish. Stopped. I mean, this thing goes from like something to nothing so much faster than it accelerates, which is kind of cool. Woohoo! Little bit of a skid there. That was fun. Let's see if we can break the tire loose going through this corner here. Yep, there it is. This is fun. This is so much fun.
Now let's get the patronizing question out of the way. Is this thing a motorcycle? Yes, obviously it's a bike. It doesn't look like a motorcycle, but you gotta wear a helmet, you gotta wear riding gear. It's a motorcycle, just got some kind of car-like features. And let's start with the motor here. This is a Rotax 900cc inline triple, which kind of explains why I don't really love the motor. More on that in a second. It's putting down 77 horsepower and 56 foot-pounds of torque while weighing in at over 625 pounds, which, I mean, look at it. It's a big vehicle. It's got a ton of stuff on there, so that kind of makes sense. This thing does have a comically low 24.5-inch seat height. This, if you cannot flat foot this, you're probably like, I don't know, 6 years old. As far as the ergos go, this thing is super amenable. The reach of the bars is totally relaxed, and I've got a ton of room on this thing. But something that's cool is these foot pegs are completely adjustable. All you gotta do is reach down, pull them up, and then you can wiggle them forward or backwards. That's super cool because on the highway, I like it all the way out so that I can starfish, because this tail bag here is actually nice and sturdy and I can just cruise like this. But I notice in the twisties, it feels better to have them pulled back like an inch or two to give me a little bit more grab on the tanks as I'm going through the corners. This does have some interesting quirks though that you're gonna wanna be aware of. First of all, it's got a really weird startup procedure. First, you gotta put yourself the foot on the brakes, you gotta turn the kill switch on, you have to roll the throttle forward, and then you have to push the starter button at the same time. Now, if you wanna get out of the park mode, you actually have to go down on the other side and flip the parking brake all the way over, and then you can just sort of... It's also got a forward and a reverse gear, so clue the blue to noob. And getting into my favorite and least favorite stuff on this thing, it breaks the back tire loose so easy. It's so much fun to drift this thing around corners, and going from a stop, it feels so cool to light up this rear tire. However, something I do have to mention, we'll talk about it a little bit later, it feels kind of loose and wobbly through the handlebars. I'm not sure if it needs a steering stabilizer. I don't think it does. I think it's just inherent to the geometry that there's a little bit of looseness whenever you hit a bump. Another thing that was a shocking pro of this is how cheap it is. This thing is 11,000 bucks. That's crazy. That's totally nuts how cheap this thing is. I thought it was gonna be closer to like 15 or 20 grand, but no, this thing costs less than my KTM does. However, the other side of the cheapness token is this thing does actually feel a little bit cheap. The plastics do tend to be a little bit wibbly wobbly. They feel a little bit more like a jet ski than they do a motorcycle, which, you know, kind of makes sense for how all of it rides. Kind of feels like a jet ski, but on the land, or a snowmobile. I also don't love the looks. Sorry, it doesn't do it for me. It is a little bit goofy, and there isn't really a way to de-goofify it. But you know, when you're riding it, you're not looking at it. It's kind of like an MT-10. And now I think we've proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that this thing actually feels really good in the twisties. But let's get it out into the one place motorcyclists say this thing belongs, and that's the highway.
As you can probably hear, we're now on the highway, and I'm gonna just address something right here. This windscreen is not tall enough. It is putting air right on the top of my helmet, which is what you're hearing. There's gonna be a lot of background noise as a result of this windscreen. And I am gonna have to dial down the speed a little bit, so I'm gonna just get a speed test out of the way right here. Let's get a little bit closer to that Jeep up there. And you can sort of see how it accelerates. I'm wide open throttle right here. And it's doing that thing where basically above 90 miles an hour, it's 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. And that's fine. I mean, this thing is moving a lot of motorcycle. That being said, this thing absolutely does boogie, and on the highway, a lot of the issues that I have with it in the twisties kind of disappear. The seat is really comfy. I can just sit here all day, and it's doing a good job of smoothing out a lot of the general vibration that's happening in the vehicle. There's a lot of shake, and a lot of the parts tend to be a little imbalanced. As you can probably tell by the dashboard camera, at 75-ish miles an hour, the rest of the bike is not smooth, yet I am very smooth. My position on this thing, I'm really not feeling the shakes other than through the handlebars. However, the faster you go, the more your inputs on the handlebars are, the touchier the handlebars get. As we get into this higher speed corner right here, I do end up having to slow it down a little bit more than I normally would through here. I'm going about 67, 70 miles an hour indicated. I go through this corner a lot faster on a motorcycle. I'm just gonna say that. Now, this being an older model, I'm gonna forgive it for not having cruise control, but cruise control would be awesome on this guy. It would be really, really nice because, I don't know, something about these really wide grips that are on here, it makes sense why there's a cramp buster on here, why the owners actually put a cramp buster, because you do end up having to hold the thing open. And I'm noticing that I'm not holding it open a little at highway speed. I'm opening it a lot. On this, it feels like at, 75 mile an hour, I've got it open about 3/4. Now, I did end up riding this guy home in traffic, and this is gonna be one of the bummers that this thing has, is when you're in traffic, you are in traffic. You're the size of a small car. My wheels feel not as wide as they are in my Mazda, but I'm a good width of that Audi right there. And so in that sense, it does kind of suffer from, that joy of being stuck in Texas summer heat on a motorcycle without the ability to keep moving through lanes, just filtering around. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say the worst of both worlds, but you suffer the heat, and you just don't have the ability to get through traffic. So it's a bummer. However, on the open road like this, dude, I could ride this thing all day. It would be so easy for me to just put down a gazillion miles.
Now we do have to talk about competition for this, and I think Can Am just kind of owns this market segment, more so because people just aren't playing in it. This is a very odd kind of vehicle, and not a lot of people are chasing this sort of design, with the sole exception of Polaris, but the Slingshot is more of a car than this thing is a motorcycle. If you squint and look at them side by side, yeah, kinda, they look similar, but this thing is so much smaller, and the way you ride it is so much closer to a bike. You don't actually sit in it, you sit on it. I also think those Slingshots are like twice the price. I actually don't know how much they cost. Give me 1 second. Polaris Slingshot price. Jesus. Okay, so the base level Slingshot is 22 grand, so twice as much as this thing is. Then you've got the $28,000 SL, which is ridiculous, and then you have a $32,000 version, which is the SLR. It's also got a car motor in it, so let's be real. That's a car, this is a motorcycle. Holy fuck. Oh my God. Oh, why is this so expensive? Okay, I went to look at some of the other trikes out there, which really come down to the Goldwing and the Harley trike. Apparently, according to Google, a brand new trike from Honda can run all the way up to $80,000. That's insane. Very few times can I look at a Harley Davidson and say that that's cheaper, because the Freewheeler is 32 grand, the Road Glide 3 is 35, and the Tri-Glide Ultra is 38. God damn, factory trikes are so expensive. Also, those things are inherently unsafe. I really do not like the way that the Harley trike rides. I have ridden one in the past, and if you get too zesty, you're gonna pop the outside wheel and roll. This thing will throw you off before it rolls. You're gonna leave the bike before the bike leaves the ground, because the center of gravity is so low, and you're gonna load that outside tire. It's designed to stay flat no matter how hard you push it. I would go so far as to say that this is a sport trike, as goofy as that sounds. It really is, and in that market segment, there really is only one.
And this is where we get to that question of, would I own one? I would really enjoy owning this right now, I think. I think I could have a lot of fun owning this thing. But I prefer the feeling and sensation of riding a motorcycle. However, as I get older, if I couldn't hold up a motorcycle, I would much rather have this than a Harley Tri-Glide. Infinitely more. The Harley Tri-Glides suck. Again, I've ridden one. I don't like it. I don't like the Goldwing. This is really the only thing that has that sporty vibe, and I would rather have this than a convertible Miata or a Corvette or whatever. I'd rather ride this than be in a car, because cars do nothing for me. Literally nothing. I don't care at all about cars. In fact, I think they're a giant pain in the ass, and I would much rather we all just rode motorcycles. Now, you know, I like air conditioning when it's this hot out, but the sensation of being out in nature is why I come to bikes, and I suspect a lot of reason why y'all come to bikes. Also, if you have a disability that makes it so that you can't ride a motorcycle, this is great. This is a great alternative. I once rode off-road with a guy who didn't have, I think it was his right foot from the knee down. He was able to operate the brake, but they had it modified. I think that if you were using a prosthetic, I think you could get this brake pedal to work for you. But, you know, before people be like, oh, yeah, it's an old guy or a disabled bike. No. If you're a little bit nervous about going through corners, if you're a little bit nervous about being on two wheels and you prefer that sporty sensation of being in the air, this is a great place to be. I know a lot of people who love the idea of motorcycling, but they don't want to commit to a bike because there's this sense of danger. And I think that this can get you out and realize, hey, it's not as dangerous as you think. It's only as dangerous as you make it. And I'm having a great time on this motorcycle. I really am. It's a lot of fun. Would I like to have a manual? Yeah, I think so. I would much rather have my front brake be right hand and then have, you know, all linked brakes. Despite how good the brakes are, I still want to use my fingers because, you know, I'm used to riding a motorcycle. My hands are kind of bored and my left foot's not doing anything. But, you know, if all we had was a front brake, a rear brake, and then like paddle shifters, I think that would be really cool too. I think that this could benefit from a DCT. And honestly, I think this is a lot less nerdy than that one wheel. This is a very enjoyable vehicle, and I really do think that motorcyclists are doing themselves a disservice by being such gatekeepers about this thing. Oh, that's not a motorcycle. You can't have fun on one of those. Absolutely you can, and I highly encourage you guys to go try one out. And in fact, you can try this one out. The link is down in the description below where you can rent it on RiderShare. And if you click that link and it's your first time going, you'll get 25% off your first ride. You can rent from like 6,000 plus motorcycles all over the country. There's a ton of bikes on there for you to choose from. And you know, I've ridden everything from Pan Americas to Rykers to 600s to leader bikes to dynos. There's all kinds of things out there for you to check out. And it's actually a great opportunity to go broaden your horizons a little bit because, you know, you're just out a couple of bucks for a day's worth of fun. So again, click that link down in the description below. You'll get $25 off your first trip, and a huge shout out to RiderShare for sponsoring the channel and giving me the opportunity to check out all these cool bikes. And with that, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Oh, that's funny.
77 and how many? 59? 56. While weighing 627 with a seat height of 24 inches. Shut up.